And so tonight, the curtain rises.
What a day this is.
The beginning of a new journey of walking back in time to take stock.
To analyze real issues that matter to us as a nation and give a scorecard.
Good evening. Welcome to the premiere edition of The Scorecard.
Yes, The Scorecard.
From today and every other Tuesday, I will be your host, O'Brien Kimani, with my co-host,
Marie Yambo. Good evening.
The focus this evening is on the Hustlers Fund. We go beyond the narrative.
Well, we question the statistics.
And we let the numbers do the walking. Tonight, we want to present the numbers as they are. The numbers are going to tell you a story, and they're going to go beyond the common narrative, the narrative that you're so much used to. Today, the numbers will do the walking and still do the talking. Marie Yambo is on the Super Bowl. She's about to feed us with the numbers because, as we say in business, numbers do not lie and they're stubborn. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you so much, O'Brien. And just as O'Brien has said, numbers do not lie. And so we want to unpack the numbers today and let the numbers speak for us. We'll be analyzing that with our experts. And to start us off is the first phase of the Hustlers Fund. On the first phase of the Hustlers Fund, the government rolled out 500 shillings as the minimum amount that an individual can actually borrow. The maximum amount of money that an individual can borrow as far as the Hustlers Fund is concerned is 50,000 shillings. That was launched in November last year. Come March this year, on the 3rd of March to be specific, the government rolled a new product, and that was to target the business people. The amount of money that a business can actually borrow from the Hustlers Fund, the minimum is 10,000 shillings. The maximum is 200,000 shillings. The Hustlers Fund, as you may know by now, is that the Kenya Kwanza administration came into office promising to target the low-income earners, and it has proved to be very popular with Kenyans. 22 billion shillings so far has been borrowed. 12.8 billion has been repaid, but a whopping 7.2 billion shillings is in default. A total of 1 billion shillings is actually in the savings for Kenyans. Well, 19 million Kenyans so far have enrolled for the Hustlers Fund. 16 million Kenyans have borrowed from the Hustlers Fund. Defaulters stand at 800,000 shillings. So those are some of the numbers that we'll be dealing with tonight. We want to find out, do the numbers make sense among the people who have borrowed? Are they the targeted beneficiaries? So those are some of the questions that our panelists will be answering for us tonight. But we would also like to hear from you tonight. The question of the day is, are you a beneficiary of the Hustlers Fund? And if you've borrowed, what have you done with it? That is the question that we'll be putting out to you tonight, and would like to hear from you. Interact with us on our social media handle on Twitter at KBC Channel 1, and we'll be able to sample your views during this show. So, Brian, I want to hand it over to you, and it's going to be, I promise you, it's going to be a very interesting panel to listen to and for you to benefit in as far as the Hustlers Fund is concerned. O'Brien, it's to you.
Fantastic. Marie Yambo there, of course, breaking down the numbers for us and helping us understand the story behind those numbers. As I told you, numbers in business are stubborn. They do not lie. They tell a vivid story. I'm about to unveil my team of analysts. These are eminent Kenyans. You know them, you've seen them, and definitely tonight we are engaging them on the Hustler Fund numbers. And I'm starting with my immediate right. I'm joined by the chairperson of the MSME Authority. This is James Mureo. We want to go through the profile of James Mureo. He's the chairman of the MSME Fund. He's joining us tonight, and of course, remember, he has a vast experience in the corporate world. He's the immediate vice chair of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, among many other portfolio that he has held in the past. He's joining us tonight to help us break down the numbers and, of course, help us make sense of these numbers. Thank you very much, James, for joining us.
Thank you, Brian.
Very good. And of course, next to James is Whitney Misheni. She is a political economist. She is a consultant with a number of global agencies She is well versed with matters MSMEs. She's now joining us tonight to help us make sense of the Hustle Fund numbers. Thank you very much, Whitney Micheni.
Thank you for having me, O'Brien, and a good evening to your viewers.
Very good indeed, and thank you very much. And of course, next to Micheni, we have Dr. Fred Ogola. He's a governance expert. He's an economic lecturer at the Strathmore University. He has been on this platform before, of course, discussing other things. But today we want to restrict ourselves to matters Hustler Fund. We want to question the numbers, and thank you so very much indeed, Professor, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I'm giving you, each and every one of you, 30 seconds to give us an overview of the Hustler Fund. We are talking about how many months since the fund was launched? Almost 6 months?
No.
How many? It was launched in November, right?
Yes, so it's...
so about 5 months, eh?
Yeah, not yet finished March.
Very good.
We're about 4 months.
I want to hear your opinion first of all. I want to hear your general overview of the Hustler Fund. Has it achieved its objective? Where are we? And then we'll pick it up from there.
Thank you very much, O'Brien, and good evening, viewers. I think for me, I can say without a shadow of doubt that indeed the Hustler Fund has achieved its objective. Mm-hmm. It has impacted or had its impact where we wanted. Its targeted impact at the bottom of the pyramid. You know, the Kenya Fund Manifesto talked about the bottom-up approach. This is the most practical approach that one could have had, and indeed, if you look at the effects that it's having at the bottom of the scale, bottom of the pyramid, we are doing very well. The numbers that you've just displayed there largely speak to the conversation we're having with the hustlers, and I can tell you, while you are seeing like there's a lot of defaults and there's a lot of non-compliance, remember there's a lull period when you borrow. You have 14 days to pay, so if you check the statistics tomorrow, you'll find them a little different. So I am happy with what we have done.
We'll be looking at those numbers, definitely, because there's a story behind those numbers, and I want to hear from now, Prof.
Yeah, something very interesting, like you said, numbers are stubborn, and I'm just comparing with some very strange numbers. Huma allowed here that we're having 16 borrowers, yet actually the number of voters in Kenya were less...
16 million.
16 million borrowers.
Yes.
Yet voters in Kenya were around 15 point something million. And the people who voted for Kenya Kwanza are around 7 million, meaning that, first of all, very interesting that people who it's across the board, no longer which kind of coalition you are in, Kenyans are borrowing. And also, I think that if you get the numbers, I saw some numbers being given by the minister the other day about borrowing per region. And there was something very interesting that people from Western Kenya had more uptake of Hustler Fund more than any other. But this is not a surprise to me because of the fact that we know that Western Kenya is a borrower's market. Mount Kenya is more a saving market. And these numbers were very stubborn, like I tell you. So if you look at it, what I'm trying to say is that maybe Kenyans are, maybe the ease of which you can be onboarded is higher than voting, that we are finding that more people have borrowed than actually the number of people who voted during the previous election. And it's interesting, I'm sure the president is smiling by saying that at least he knows that more than half of the people who are taking Hustler Fund didn't vote for him. And I'm sure that maybe that makes him happy as the head of state. Yes.
Well, hold your thought there. Let's first of all listen now to Michelle.
So, O'Brien, thank you for having me. When I look at the Hustler Fund, I look at the Kenya Kwanza campaign pledge, which was financial inclusivity to the most vulnerable in society. And when I look at 22 billion has been disbursed, right? But what was the objective of Hustler Fund? It was for you to start up a business, a small business, and also to expand businesses. However, we want to know, the people who have taken this 22 billion, have they taken it for consumption? Have they opened businesses? I think that's the most pertinent question. What are people using Hustler Fund for? Is it, buying your food? Because also we know the cost of living. So maybe, 22 billion has been disbursed, but actually, what's the intended goal of Hustler Fund, which was literally to provide money to start businesses. So that's my pertinent question. And also, secondly, I would also, we've heard from the CS for micro and small enterprises and cooperatives, and he said that Hustler Fund is being run by the government, but we know that there's some affiliate banks, KCB and Family Bank, which are literally integrated so much in the Hustler Fund. So we want to know what KCB is. They have provided the infrastructure for Hustler Fund, but what are they gaining by providing the infrastructure for Hustler Fund? What what benefit is KCB and what
and a cooperative bank?
Family Bank, KCB. So we just want to know what the banks are doing and the telcos are doing, because it is not being run by the government. This
is not free lunch, as we usually say. That's a question that Micheni is asking. I mean, banks are in business, definitely. The telcos are in business, and Chairman, you are not here to tell us that they are doing, they are facilitating the Hustler Fund, at no cost. How are they benefiting from being in this business?
First of all, let me say this. The intention of the Hustler Fund at this first personal borrowing stage is not to do business. It's for you to have some money in your pocket. It's for you to be able to buy.
No.
Just a minute.
When you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto,
can I finish?
I'm not going to allow you to finish if you're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. I am the author of this document, so allow me to tell you why the whole funding is phased. There is a personal loan, there is a micro loan, and there is the small loan. So the first loan that you're talking about was personal borrowing. You may have wanted to do something personal.
You're trying to tell me that part of the reason why this part was set up is for you to borrow and do as you wish.
Consume. Yes, of course.
But
can I? I think we are only going to benefit if we listen to the end.
You have
I am saying we have not started giving the business loan, the micro lending. What we gave is, if in my own interpretation, it's like a drill to teach you to borrow and pay, borrow and pay, borrow and pay. If you borrow 500 shillings, O'Brien, today, and you go to the near pub there and buy me a kilo of meat and we squander it, it's okay, you'll still pay the 500 shillings.
But that's the intention.
Now, let me tell you. No. You must understand, the bottom of the pyramid is where we want this money to circulate. So you have borrowed 500 shillings. You've gone to Whitney's kiosk and we have had a meal. We've eaten, right? You will still pay. But Whitney has some money. Now she can go and buy something else from Prof there, okay? The money starts circulating. By the time Prof comes back to buy what you produce, which is some coffee table or something, money is circulating within.
So the intention number one was to allow money to circulate
without causing any inflation, because the alternative is to give money without any clear direction. But here we are lending. The biggest borrowers have been people who are in small businesses. And I remember you asked me a question which I'm going to answer now.
I'll be asking you that question.
Yeah, but I'll bring it out here at this stage because...
No, you're not going to bring it. I'll bring it.
Okay.
Before we go to that question,
but
I want to hear first of all
you know, it's good if I finish this and say...
You want to finish?
Yes, okay, I want to finish and say this. That money is supposed to spur some economic activity.
Yes. At the micro level.
At the bottom of the pyramid. So that people feel they have a bit of money, they can go, they can afford a few things that they probably wanted to. Even if they blew it up for Christmas, so be it. They will still pay for it anyway, one way or the other. So that is the first stage. Let's go to the next stage.
Then, in that spirit, I want to find out, because when I look at the numbers, and thank God that these are the latest numbers, updated
6 p.m.,
as of 6 p.m. today. The total amount of disbursed is 22.9 billion shillings. So that's about 23 billion shillings. Total repayment is 13.4 million. Okay, Kenya shillings. So when you look at these numbers, it tells you that there are about 10 billion shillings, which is yet to be repaid. What is the story behind the 10 billion shillings, Prof?
Yeah, obviously, as a banker, and I'm sure that Mr. Murray is a banker, default rate of around 54% is very high, or repayment rate of 54% is too low for any bank to make money. And if you look at the reason why people have borrowed money, statistics show, if you like, that maybe my own statistics, which you like, when I hear is that around 85% are borrowing for consumption. So if 85% borrows for consumption, and there is no reason...
Where did you get 85%?
I mean, we surveys are always done. You can do something.
It is scientific.
Yes.
You can confirm the same.
Yes, Kenyans borrow. There is scientific evidence that Kenyans borrow between 86% of Kenyans borrow between 500 and 2,000 shillings.
For consumption?
No, for whatever reason. 86%.
I'll fact check that.
Fact check.
Majority, let's use that now, majority are borrowing for consumption. Now, that has an impact on repayment. So if this fund was called a revolving fund, not a sinking fund, and nearly 10 billion has sunk, how will this fund continue being available to other borrowers? Because it should be sustainable. So that question, the sustainability on that number. On the other thing, which is also very interesting here, is that if you look at the number of people who have not repaid the money, forget about the amount, is also highly significant. Because I'm sure that's what's not being reported there. We didn't talk about how many people have not paid. We are only talking about how much money has not been repaid. So that statistics can also become important, because you may find that very many people have not repaid, which means they borrowed as a one-off, they never come back there, and that money is gone. So that money can actually be sunk. So, but
from the numbers that I have, the total funds that are in default is about 7.2 billion shillings.
Yes.
What is default at this stage?
The default is the people who... Remember this fund, when you borrow, you have a repayment period of 14 days.
So if we are looking, if for example, let's take it this way. If today, with the numbers we'll be given at 6 o'clock, remember there are people who are borrowing today.
Yeah.
So they are
actually people who are borrowing now.
Now as we talk. So they're being captured as default. They have not paid, but they have 14 days to pay. So that lull is what is being captured, and you are seeing like there is a short. In fact, for me, if you ask me, the beauty about it is now we have gone beyond the 50%. It means that this, what is being repaid and what is being borrowed, we are at 50%. You know, you have borrowed 22, you have given out 22, you have been repaid 13, which is like 50% plus.
Very well.
And that is what can start giving the fund its own life.
Very well. You see, before we go to the streets of Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu, just to hear the views of Kenyans in regard to the Hustlers Fund, I want to hear from Micheni here. If you have a situation whereby if you have 10 shillings, or let's say if you have 20 shillings, and then you lend 10 shillings, then 5 people have paid, 5 have not, is that a good lending business model?
Can you say have not yet?
Have not yet paid?
Yet.
Okay. First of all, we know the defaulters are about 800,000 plus. Yeah, that's the official numbers from the ministry. And also most of the defaulters are coming from the arid and semi-arid areas. Okay, so secondly, we can also now come to your question. Then the number of non-performing loans. I feel like 6.3 to 7% of the total number of people who have borrowed the fund, who have not now, who we can classify as defaulters. I feel like that's a large number. And I feel like the people who qualify as defaulters are, first of all, you have the 14-day period to repay the loan, and then you have 15 days extra where the interest rate jumps from 8% to 9.5%. And that's, I feel like when now those 14 and 15 days lapses, that's probably like a month, that's when they actually declare that you have defaulted, and they actually now freeze your account. Now you have to repay so that you're allowed to borrow. So I don't feel like if I borrow right now, I do not qualify as someone who's defaulted. So I do have a differing opinion.
A different opinion, eh?
Yes.
You'll be explaining that. I can see you nodding in this argument.
Yeah.
But let's first of all go to the city of Kisumu and get to listen to what Kenyans in the city of Kisumu are saying about the Hustlers Fund. And our reporter Wycliffe is in Kisumu. Let's first of all listen to what Kenyans had to say in Kisumu.
Hustler Fund nilijaribu kuichukua kwa simu, nilifaulu safari ya kwanza. Nikaambiwa limit zangu ni 700, nilichukua, nikarudisha, bado 700 ndio napewa. Mpaka mwishowe nikawa sasa sioni kama hiyo pesa inaweza nisaidia sana. The last time nilichukua, hivyo ndio nilirudisha na sijawahi chukua tena. Sasa most of the time they keep on telling me limit yangu ni 700 naweza chukua. Sasa nashangaa kama nimechukua more than 5 times, mbona bado limit yangu inakuwa tu 700 shillings. So I decided to leave it. Nilipata 700, mimi nikaenda kwa unga gorogoro 3 nikakula. Bas. Kwa sababu biashara yenye nafanya bel moja nachukua na 21,000. Sasa singeijaza niende nichukue na nguo. Nilipeleka kwa chakula nikarudisha, nikachukua tena sukari na sabuni hivyo. Sasa ni basic tu.
Nilichukua lakini nilirudisha, lakini haikunisaidia vile nilikuwa nataka. Juu nilikuwa nataka 1,000 akanipatia 500.
Hiyo ni kama inasaidia, ingekuwa vile alisema ni grant sio loan. Juu kuna wenye wamejaribu kuchukua ati itakuwa imonge, unachukua ile limit grow, hakuna, ni ile tu. Sasa sioni kama inasaidia. Juu waongeze limit, kuwe kitu yenye mtu akichukua inaweza saidia mtu, kusaidia mtu kuanza hata biashara ndogo.
Naona hii mambo ya Hustler Fund mimi ingenisaidia. Nimeuliza naweza kuchukua kiwango gani, nikaambiwa ni 500. Nikafikiria 500, hizi nguo, unaona hizi nguo nauza hizi. Hakuna nguo ya 500 hapa. Mimi sikuchukua, nimeachana nayo kwa vile nimeona haitanisaidia. Sasa watachukua 500 hata mtu wa Kongoya, akienda Kongoya kwanza unapewa 400 na 70. Ukitoa inapungua. Ukienda Kongoya hata haina kichochote, hakuna kitu hapo.
Hustler Fund nilichukua 700, lakini yote nikakula ikaisha. Haikuingia kwa biashara juu haingenisaidia.
Mambo ya Hustler Fund siyapata hata shilingi. Nimefurahi, simu yangu ni Airtel, nafurahi karibu 700. Ningefurahi wananiambia try again mpaka dakika hii. Siyapata hiyo pesa. Sijui shida iko wapi.
Okay, mimi nili expect wakisema ni Hustler Fund maybe for business. Generally hakuna biashara utafungua na 470. Unaona? So kama ni ya business, maybe waangalie do nitaweza komboa nayo shop, maybe vitu nitastock kwa hiyo shop na biashara yangu.
Hustler Fund ni mzuri, lakini hiyo kiwango yenye tumewekewa ni kidogo sana. Yezi saidia ule hustler wa chini. Inafaa ongeze kiwango yenye inaweza saidia mtu aanzishe biashara, lakini shilingi 500, 600, 800 hii haitoshi. Alafu ile muda tunapewa pia inafaa ongeze 14 days, ni kidogo sana. Inafaa upewe at least 1 month, kitu kama hiyo ndio isaidie raia wa kawaida.
First things tuliambiwa interest haiongezewi. Sasa interest inaenda kiongezeka with time. Unapata tu inaenda kiongezeka, mkopo wako penye imefika inaenda inapanda.
Well, those are some of the views that Kenyans are expressing about the Hustler Fund. Some of them are saying that the application process is too cumbersome. Others are saying that the amount is too small, the repayment period is too short. That's why we're in the studio, so that we can try to find the way forward. We can try to offer solutions on how to improve on this product that we are calling the Hustler Fund. My team is in the studio. James Moreo is the chairperson of the MSME Authority. He's joining us here, as well as Whitney Misheni, who is a political economist. She's also with us here, as well as Dr. Fred Ogola, a governance expert. Before we went for that break, first of all, I want to hear your views, Mr. Chairman. Two things, have come up from that conversation. Number one, the repayment period is very short. And then number 2, the amount being offered is very small. And number 3, the application process is somehow cumbersome. Do you agree with the Kenyans?
I don't agree with any of those statements. Let me first start and ask you, have you tried to apply for the Hustler Fund? You as O'Brien, or you as Whitney, or you as Daktari? Because it is only when you try it out. I know for a fact that when we launched this product, everybody, the president, the deputy president, the PCS, the prime cabinet secretary, myself, and the ministers, we all applied there on the platform. And we were awarded. I was given, the amount I was given to start with was 1,500. That's all I could qualify.
As the chair?
No. They don't look at the chair.
No, I'm saying you as James
chair, it's your phone and your credit scoring. You apply, you get scored. Now, what people don't understand is that money, this initial amount was personal loans, and I must stress this. It's not for business, it's personal. Anything that you feel you want to do when you're having a short, for example, now there is drought, okay? Will your children sleep hungry when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table? So this was personal. We have not yet rolled out the micro loans, which will be between 250,000 and 2.5 million.
This is what is coming up in April?
It is coming up. No, even the bigger one is coming up between 2.5 and 10 million shillings. It's part of the bigger problem.
So what you're saying is that...
But what people, Brian, what people are doing, they're jumping the gun. Today, all those people who have spoken are saying, be patient. Be patient. We are training you that dawa ya deni ni kulipa, borrow and pay, and it becomes second nature. Now, when we give you, and the Bible says, if you can be trusted with little, you can be trusted with much. If I can't trust you, I can tell you the people who got off the CRB, thanks to this decision by the president, will soon find themselves in worse situations. If you default with the Hustler Fund, you will have nowhere to run in this country. I can tell you.
At that biblical note, let's listen to Mishani. Mishani.
I would like to put it on record that I do not believe that it's the government's business to provide loans for consumption. That should be left to the private sector. That should be left to the Fulizas of the world. That should be left to the KCB M-Pesas. I feel like government should restrict itself to government and also just let the private sector play itself out. Because also when I request...
But what about when the lending institutions are becoming predatory? They are lending to Kenyans, at exorbitant rates. Don't you think the government has the mandate to intervene and offer solution?
Okay, it actually does, but also they can tell the CBK, the Central Bank of Kenya, to literally rein in on those financial institutions.
But what do you do in a free market like ours?
It's a free enterprise.
You know, the Central Bank of Kenya, I mean... No, don't interrupt the lady. No, I'm the one in charge. Yeah. Just hang on there.
I just wanted to interject and tell you something very important.
Okay, let me just prosecute my point. And also, since we've seen that when I borrow, of course I'm not getting the full amount. If I borrow 500 shillings, I'm actually going to get 475 because 5% is going to the savings account. Meaning meaning like you're not getting the full amount so that you can say it's just the government being, just being like good to the citizens. So we just want to know where the 5% of the savings is going, because also from that 5% we know 70% is going to a pension scheme. Which pension scheme is the government putting the 5%? Because also when the micro loans come into effect and the women enterprise funds, which they did that relaunch, comes into effect, we're going to be borrowing up to like 200,000, where you'll be saving like 10,000 from that 200,000. So we want to know where the money will be. I think the government needs to be more clear in where the savings account is.
James, you shall be giving an answer to that question.
I wish I was noting down because I can't remember.
What she's asking you is about the savings. She's asking about the savings, right? And the pension, eh?
Yes.
So she's going to repeat that question to you.
No, it's okay.
But yes, Prof, what do you make of the comments from Kenyans?
First of all, they look genuine. And maybe I would like to ask Chair, as the service provider, we say customers is king. The king has spoken. The only thing is listen. What I'm trying to say is that I would not try to say they are wrong, because they are looking at their circumstances and they're finding that this fund, the intention is good, but the execution has not reached their, let's say, specific situation. So the issue is, what are the strategies to find a way on how? Why 14 days? Is there something that can be done about 14 days without either harming the fund, neither harming the recipient? The other thing is these amounts. What is the minimum amount that can actually make Kenyans satisfied? Because if you say they are being used for anything, then any amount of money is enough. Then the other thing which is also important is that Hustler Fund was supposed to be an instrument of economic development, an instrument. So what is the critical mass to show this? One thing I want to see, are we seeing increment in registration of new businesses in the register of companies, meaning that somebody believes that they can actually start a business with a Hustler Fund? Are we seeing that some of those businesses which were inactive starting?
But even before you proceed, I mean, but you don't need to be registered by the business registration at Sharia House for you to start a Mama Boga business, do you?
No, but I'm trying to say because the thing, if this money should also spur economic development, because bottom up means that you start up some business that actually rises up, isn't it? If that is the case, then we'll start seeing that there's a way on which, even if I'm only consuming, it's empowering somebody's business or making someone to start a business knowing money is circulating. Because even if it is not me registering the business, my consumption should spur other business to get registered. Has it contributed to the GDP growth? Because the thing is that we cannot spend 50 billion and there is no correlation between 50 billion and economic development and GDP. So there must be some matrices there to be considered. What I want to disagree a little bit with the viewers is one, the onboarding process and the borrowing process is very fast. Why I'm trying to say, I used numbers. It took Safaricom's M-Pesa 2 years, between 2007 and 2009, to register 7 million customers. And these people, it has taken them 4 months more or less to reach 18 million users and actually 19 million registered people, meaning that the technology for sure is easy, because you cannot tell me that 18 million have easily registered and one person says that for him it's not working. So that's the only thing, but the rest of the things I agree with them absolutely.
You agree with them. And also it's very good to put into perspective the fact that it is not the entire 50 billion shillings that has been disbursed. It's only 22 billion shillings that has been disbursed so far. And then I think it is proper to say that it is, at this point, it may be very hard to quantify the economic impact of the Hustler Fund, bearing in mind that it has been around for how many months? About 4 months. Less than about 4 months and a half.
That's 4 months.
So, and I think the impact of the Hustler Fund, can be gauged properly after 6 months. Are we in agreement?
Not exactly, because
partly.
You see, if it's a mass market product, it should have an instant. It should have an instant impact.
Very good.
Can
we first of all, Chair, we go for a quick short break, and then we can sip a glass of water, and then we shall be back. Is that okay with you?
No problem.
Fantastic. You're watching The Scorecard. We are live from Broadcasting House. Remember, at O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle, at KBC Channel 1. Remember, even our Facebook page, we are live. Our question for the day, for today is this. Have you used the Hustler Fund? Okay, because what we are doing here is interrogating the Hustler Fund numbers. O'Brien Kimani is my name. We are taking a break. We are back with more story, with more information. Stay right here.
Nimesahau kucheza loto moto. Usisahau kucheza Cheza Loto Moto, shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa, paybill number 757070, account number andika neno Loto, kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala, nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Welcome to Casablanca.
Morocco is a very touristic country. I think it is in our blood to the hosting. We are very well known for hospitality.
Football remains the most popular sport. Just what is behind Morocco's success in football?
We have the homologation of CAF and FIFA, both of them.
This week on Channel 1.
You'll also discover that there's a woman who can give you something no other woman has given you. Alonso? That man's dead.
You know, Ruben was so brave, Nanny. So courageous. He saved my life.
Let's go and bring us a couple of beers. I'm just so happy to see you, Fabiola. To see that you're fine. It's such a relief, honestly.
Haya mambo madogo haya ndio ilimfanya tukampoteza ndugu wetu.
Aki Kibet. Usiurudi nyumbani tafadhali.
Shakhsun wala dile. Ulishukul kaawatna.
Tuko na solid intelligence nasema Burhan ako alive na anapanga his last attack. Atatumia Wajir border post kuingia Kenya. Na huko ndio tunaenda.
Welcome back to the program. Quite interesting discussion going on here in the studio. Thank you so much for staying with us. And we just like to remind you our question of the day. Are you a beneficiary of the Hustlers Fund? And if you've borrowed, what have you done with it? We've heard from Kisumu what some people have done with it. Some have gone to buy unga to cook in the house and all that. So we'd like to hear from you. Our hashtag, the scorecard on Twitter, KBC Channel 1. On Facebook is KBC TV Channel 1. So please do keep tweeting and do interact with us on Facebook so that we can be able to sample some of your views within this show. Before I hand it over to O'Brien, Dawood Abdullahi Jilo is actually enjoying the show. He says, keep up the good work. Peter Cheriot, what does 500 shillings do? Mimi hata sikumbuki nilifanya nini nayo. So those are some of the questions that Kenyans are asking. 500 shillings, is it enough for you to actually start a business? Our panel of analysts are here and they keep on unpacking that. What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund? Back to you, Brian.
And straight to the response from the chair. What can you actually do with 500 shillings? What kind of a business can you start with 500 shillings? James Moreo, I was asking you that question and you said that you are going to respond.
I will respond.
What kind of a business can you start with 500 shillings?
First of all, before I answer your question, I want to just straighten something that Whitney said. See, this fund is available to the willing. If you feel you have the need to borrow, you're free to borrow. It's not mandatory. You're free. If you find that that money is too little, wait until we scale that fund to what you need. But at the moment, if you find that your need is to put food on the table and you urgently need, you either Fuliza or take a cheap facility with the Hustler Fund at 0.02% interest rate, okay? So it is not mandatory that you take it. And I want to take to send this message across. It is only when you find there is need. If you feel right now, my need is to have a meal, I'll walk, borrow that 500 shillings, go and have a meal, I'll pay it when I get the money. But right now I need that personal satisfaction. When it comes to borrowing for the micro lending, there will come a time when then you look at your priority of issues. But now you ask me, what can you do with 500 shillings?
What business can you start?
Now, when we launched the Hustle Fund at the Green Park with the president, that question was alive. And one maize vendor there told me, I was there interviewing. He said, with 500 shillings, if I buy maize from the market there, I will come and roast it here, and by the end of the day, I'll have 800 shillings or 750 shillings.
Let's first of all do
wait. We are starting from the bottom there, O'Brien. So when you ask, what can you do with 500 shillings, it's because you probably don't have value for 500 shillings. It's something you don't take too much serious business with.
Chairman, allow me just to interject here. And using the same analogy of a maize roaster.
Yes.
So, first of all, you need to buy maize for you to roast, right?
Yes.
You need to buy charcoal, right?
Yes.
You also need to buy a burner or a roaster, I don't know what they call it. A jiko, right?
If you want to say you're saying you're starting business with 500 shillings? Well, I don't know whether that is possible. I'm looking at somebody who wants to boost their stocks. You can't, of course, expect to buy a jiko and roast.
So that's why I was asking, what business can you start?
Not with 500 shillings. Not with 500 shillings.
So I mean, argument that you cannot start a business with 500 shillings.
Considering, I think I don't want to pretend that I don't understand what you're asking, but the truth is, this is not a business loan. It is supposed to be for personal consumption. All right, personal loan. When you start thinking about business, then you now do, you itemize what you want to buy and see how much you need. Okay?
Yeah.
But with 500 shillings, a maize vendor who was there said, with my jiko, if I buy now stocks, of 500 shillings, I'll come and roast. At the end of the day, I'll have 800 shillings.
We're in agreement.
I'll build stocks. Now,
we are in agreement that you can boost your business with 500 shillings.
Yes.
Because even for somebody whose business is to vend boiled eggs, you can just go, you buy a crate of eggs, and start. And start your business. But you wanted to say something,
I wanted to say something that, Chair, there is a misnomer around what you mean by personal business.
Personal loan.
When you say that personal loan is for consumption, no. In the bank, personal loan means that when you are applying for that loan, you don't need to talk about your business plan. The bank do not have to restrict you what to do with it. So long as you meet the limit, do anything you want with it, but you can still start a business with it.
Yes. If you want.
Yes, and actually, most of the personal loan bank tells you, you can start a business with it, but it cannot qualify as a business loan because you can't go to a bank to ask a bank to finance a startup. They don't finance a startup. Banks normally finance a business which has got proven what's called post-revenue. So personal loan does not mean it is for consumption, because Kenyans may think that the chairman has said you borrow money for consumption is personal loan.
Just saying it can.
It can. So I'm just trying to make that clarity clearly that as a banker, personal loan actually can be used to start a business. Now when you go borrow as a business loan, now you're post-revenue, now the bank can give you money to continue.
Very good.
Then another thing which, Chair, you were trying to say here about the issue of Kenyans are ready to do. We go back again. What was the intention of the president when he launched the Hustler Fund. Did he launch the Hustler Fund to feed Kenyans through consumption? I don't think that's the case. But maybe the opportunity Kenyans have taken has to use this money for consumption. We can't advise Kenyans to take money for consumption because I think they are going to go into debt. They are going to become more indebted, that even now an opportunity becomes harder for them if they get next opportunity. Because now if you have not repaid a hustler loan, I go to a village like Ugenya where I come from. When I was campaigning Ugenya chairman, I found out that on average everybody has 5 SIM cards. Now, if you ask them why, they tell you, Mheshimiwa, we have 5 SIM cards because we have borrowed Fuliza 5 times. So anytime you want to send somebody M-Pesa, you have to ask them, which line should I use? Because others are held by Fuliza. Now, if they use the 6th line to borrow Hustler Fund, you have added them another line that has got this thing where now they are under debt. So the question is this: I don't think it was worth it. And let me give an example outside Kenya so that we are more objective. In India, the president normally come with these things they call micro loans through microfinance, which are given to Indians, but there's no intention to pay. So if you want to win the next election, you just declare that for all those people who borrowed through microfinance are forgiven. It's called a harvest season. So people borrow with no intention to pay. Could Hustler Fund chairman introduce a culture in Kenya where people borrow with no intention of paying? Because let me tell you what, there are this type of borrowers. There are people who borrow with the intention to pay back. There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies or something happens. And there are people who borrow completely with no intention to pay. These are Kenyans, and some of them are falling in this category. So would the Hustler Fund not introduce a culture of people who borrow for anything and borrow not to pay? Will that be a good character to introduce in Kenya, Chair?
But my argument is this. I mean, you know, even as a chairman response to this, the government has been very clear that you borrow and you pay within 14 days. So the government is very clear that you're not, this is not free lunch for anybody. You're borrowing and then you repay at the end of the 14 days. Yes. And if you do not pay after the 14 days, you pay more at the end of that. But Chairman is going to respond to that. But I want to come to Micheni here and get to hear from you. I know you have interacted with SMEs, you know, for quite a long time. You are a youth, you know, with the proper definition of who is a youth. For 500 shillings, and being objective enough, what kind of a business can you start with 500 shillings?
When you look at the economic climate, we can see that inflation is at 9.2%. So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December. So there's no business I can start with 500 because inflation has gone up very fast. And if we're talking about consumption, I would like to say that if the president's intention was for us to consume that money with our personal needs, I would expect his economic council to actually just tell him that, you know, the other things that he can do by lowering taxes, the other measures other than, you know, flooding the market with money, and also I would also now secondly want to say that I do not believe that entrepreneurship, which is being brought up by this Hustler Fund, I do not think that's the panacea for youth unemployment. I think the other measures that the government can use, this is just one thing we are navel-gazing at. They should look at a holistic approach, which is making the business, the environment more conducive to looking at taxes, because we have some instances where we have double taxation and all those other things. So I think there are bigger issues other than Hustler Fund which are bedeviling the MSMEs.
Chairman, you want to say something?
You know, O'Brien, I have said, and I'm going to repeat this and say, this fund, and Professor, you asked a question and answered it, because you said personal loan is what the bank allows you to take, a fund that you use for something personal, whatever you decide to do with it, whether you want to use it in business, whether you want to go and kit up your house, whether you want to buy a new sofa set or pay school fees, it's a personal loan. And I think that's the latitude that every Kenyan is allowed. And that's why you have seen 18 million Kenyans participating in this. They cannot all be wrong. There's something right about this. Maybe the effects are being planted and soon they will mushroom and we'll get to see them. But the truth is, the impact on the ground, and I have been on the ground, I did a big wreck around the country. The impact, there are people, of course. If you hear somebody saying that this process is very complicated, that's an outright liar. That's an outright liar. Somebody must be truthful and say this is the most simplified way of acquiring collateral. Because hitherto, O'Brien, you would never get anybody to give you money without collateral. Today, what is your collateral in this process? It's your credit scoring. A lot of people were removed from CRD.
One thing,
they'll soon be back there.
One thing, Chairman, I have to agree with you, is that registering for the Hustler Fund is a very simple process.
Very simple.
It is very straightforward.
Yeah.
It takes you less than 3 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm saying this out of experience.
Yes,
I have tried, and even when you borrow, you get your money instantly.
Immediately.
Okay, you don't have any waiting time. There are no paperwork to be done. You just register, you request, and your wish is granted as soon as possible. But I also want to hear from you. When I was going through these numbers, the total savings, this is coming to 1 billion shillings.
1.1 billion, yeah.
Yeah, 1.1 billion shillings.
Yes.
So I want to know my savings, because these are my savings, right, as a borrower. How much interest are they earning for me? When can I access the savings when I need? And who am I saving with?
You see, those questions, I'll answer with another question. And I'll ask you, how many years have you paid NSSF? Or NHIF?
Yeah.
Where is that money invested?
NHIF, of course, it's not a saving.
Who pays? No, it's a savings. It's for aged.
NHIF is a medical scheme.
Yeah. Who determines how it's going to be used? I think for me, if we get too detailed about this, we're going to lose the big picture. For me, I think the most important thing is, O'Brien, I know right now from the number of borrowings and paying I've done, I have about 500 shillings saved for me somewhere. I've transacted a few times, 25 shillings.
Would you be interested to know somewhere is where?
I would be interested if I am withdrawing it now, but savings is not for consumption. Savings for that day, we are forcing people to actually remember that one day you'll not be able to sit here, O'Brien. You'll need to fall back on savings.
So you're saving for me for how long?
For as long as you're borrowing. And more importantly for me, O'Brien, is the question that I've asked. How many of you are deducted NSSF every month and you pay willingly? Now, have you ever found out, Whitney, where NSSF is invested? Or DOC?
No.
Somebody invests in the best interest.
The most important question here is that to ask, if you are saving money in a bank, what is your bank account number? If you're putting money on NSSF, what is your NSSF number? Because if you don't have NSSF number, when you go to NSSF, what do you tell them? You show them Hustler Fund.
No.
If you go to a bank, do you show them your Hustler Fund account? They don't know Hustler Fund account. They know your bank account. So if I save money...
And of course, the other
even
thing...
Even if you do NHIF, you have NHIF number.
Yes.
And of course, citing NSSF, NSSF is a highly regulated industry by the Retirement Benefits Authority, and so you know for sure that I, as O'Brien Kimani, I have my NSSF number, okay, and I know that NSSF is managed by a board of trustee headed by a CEO. There is also the chairman, and it is defined in the law where NSSF is supposed to invest in the real estate, in the government securities. So if I would want to know from NSSF, where did you invest my money last year? I mean,
they wouldn't tell you.
Oh yeah, they usually have the reports, annual report. But I can see Micheni want to say something.
I feel like, with all due respect, the chair is evading the question of our savings. And also now it begs the question, because, you know, this accumulative amounts of 1 billion, that's a very substantial amount. And we've also seen that Hustler Fund now has 3 products. We have the micro loan and we have the Women Enterprise Fund. When I start saving, I compound those figures. Cumulatively, it's going to be substantial. So we're just asking genuine questions as to where the 70% of the 5% is being invested.
That money is going into the same savings program as the NSSF. It's a retirement benefit. It's under the Retirement Benefit Act. And I can tell you, whereas 4 months is a very short time to test how much savings you've had, the truth is, we are questioning something prematurely, in the sense that when we talk about savings, we are not talking of a current account situation. You are putting money, stashing it away for a rainy day. A rainy day will come, O'Brien and Micheni and Doc.
What if the rainy day comes tomorrow?
Then we cross the bridge when we get there. Then you see, because let me tell you. You will only access, for example, let's look at an SSF, for example. When do you access an SSF?
Upon retirement.
Upon retirement.
Because it is in the law.
Yes, or in death. Yes, in death you can also claim your NSSF. So and
that is the law.
In pretty much the same way, I am sure the crafters of this Hustler Fund have actually looked at that, and I'm sure it's aligned to the Retirement Benefits Act.
Very good.
All right?
And you're one of the drafters, right?
Well, I wasn't the drafter, but I was participated.
There are more questions there. Even your next of kin, I didn't see it in the platform. So if you die and you don't have next of kin in the Hustler Fund platform, who can access this money?
Let me ask you then a similar question. If today you die and you have money in your M-Pesa, how will your next of kin access? Because
when you're registering for a SIM card,
yes,
they will give such details.
Now, those details are that when people were being asked to give their PIN number, first of all, you're paid through the PIN, that Pesa account, and your details are captured there. Your next of kin is captured there.
Very good.
So there is no way you can lose your money.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, time is really spent. I mean, we've been here for more than 1 hour. Yeah, I know you're shocked, but we've been here for more than 1 hour. We are actually overrunning the station. But we have 30 seconds each to rate or to scorecard the Hustler Fund, and I will start with you. In terms of registration ease, how do you rate it?
I think I'll give it 5 out of 5. 5
out of 5?
Yeah.
Very good. Micheni, in terms of registration, how would you scorecard the Hustler Fund?
We would like to laud the President for making it a digital fund, so I would say 5 over 5.
5 over 5. 5 over 5.
Yeah.
What about you?
6 over 5.
6 over 5. It doesn't work.
It's a great thing because it's a digital thing and I don't need
the next question. We are on to the next question. In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Yeah. Why?
Because everybody I've heard is saying, even text message you receive on this one is showing me people are saying that they need more money.
They need more money.
Yeah.
What about you, Michelle?
1 out of 5. I feel like with inflation and the current cost of living, 475 shillings on the minimum cannot do much for me. And also 50,000, it's a give or take with the current economic environment.
What about you? 500 shillings? How would you rate it?
Because I know the details of what you can do, I'll still give it 5 out of 5. Because I know the impact it has had on the ground. Yes.
Very good. Finally, before I let you go, in terms of the management and transparency of the Hustlers Fund, how would you rate it, Professor?
I think that's where they get it 3 because of the reasons they've just discussed. 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. What about you, Micheni?
I would say 2 out of 5 because I still have some very pertinent questions that I need the government to answer, and also we've seen some conflicting figures and also some conflicting statements from the cabinet, the CS, Mr. Chelugui and David D. So I think there's still opacity in the communication of Hustler Fund.
What about you, Chairman?
I would tell you, a 4-month baby. I don't know how much you can give in terms of criticizing what it's doing. I would still say I'll give it 4 out of 5. And
4 out of 5?
4 out of 5, yes. Because
why?
Because when you look at the systems that have been put in place, and the fact that we have been able to disburse that amount, 22 billion, out to the public there. It means, first of all, we have trust in the public, we have given them a new leaf, and more importantly, O'Brien, that we have allowed people to borrow once again at low interest rates without collateral. Just beg people to be a bit patient for the micro loan. And I'll want my panelists here to watch that space when we get to the micro loan and the small loan, where now you talk about good money that can get you into
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Finally, before we move over to Marie Yambo, Professor, in 10 seconds, what areas of improvement do you see for Hustler Fund to make it better?
I think the areas to make it better, we need a bit of financial literacy to be accompanied with this thing, because you see so many people don't know what it is all about and what they can do with it. And what the chairman says, there's some financial literacy that needs to be done. The second thing that needs to be improved here is that people need to be given some intelligence on this thing of business starting and doing that, because they need to know where do they put money, which sectors could work for them. And then lastly, people need to be really be told that this is not a political money, because people heard the president talk about a campaign, then they are thinking of political money. This is government money that needs to be taken care of.
They are public taxes.
Yeah.
Very good.
What I would like to see being improved in the Hustler Fund is, of course, they should review the figures upwards, meaning I should be able to access more funds. And also, secondly, I think the communication from government should be more coherent. We should not be getting contradictory messages from the CAS and the Chair of Economic Council from the President's Circle.
Asante sana. Chair, what are the areas of improvement?
I think for me, what Doc has alluded to is part of work in progress. As we get to the bigger funding, financial literacy will be very key, and that we are addressing. And that then will further enhance the financial inclusion. This is where we are aiming. The final product will be good for Mwananchi. Just watch this space and have a little patience, and we will get there.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen and a lady, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. We look forward for a better and a more improved Hustler Fund to benefit the micro as well as medium and large sized businesses in this country.
In fact, the banks will transition. Once you've done the small loans, we will then have those hustlers moving to the banks. Now they'll be bankable because there'll be a hustler's statement that you can actually produce in bank and say, I've been borrowing and paying.
Chairman, asante sana.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. Yes.
Have yourself a good night.
Asante sana.
Well, thank you very much indeed for watching the premiere show of the scorecard. And of course, tonight we were interrogating the numbers behind the Hustler Fund. And of course, you have heard it from the team in the studio. Marie Yambo is on the other side of the studio. She's about to sample some of the views as sent by you. What did you say? How did you tweet? And of course, your message is going to be read right here on the scorecard. We meet again on Tuesday. What are we going to scorecard on Tuesday? You all better stay right here, because details are going to come out very soon. Thank you for your time. O'Brien Kimani is my name. Otherwise, have a good night. Over to you, Marie Yambo.
Thank you so much, O'Brien Kimani, and thank you to our panelists. That has been an incisive and insightful discussion in as far as the scorecard is concerned in terms of the Hustlers Fund. And just like O'Brien has said, next week, keep it here because we have still much more to unpack for you. So what have you been saying on the social media platforms? Well, we want to sample some of your views here on our Facebook, where Kelly Loyopo from Lodwar says, first, I was given a loan amount of 500 and I never took again because I paid 7 times, but still the same limit. So again, concerns there that the limits are still very low. So that is Kelly from Lodwar. Mark the Prince, kusema ukweli nilichukua lakini kurudisha bado. So again, we had brought you those numbers of defaulters, so you can see some of the people who are actually giving us their feedback. Sipa Zil, first day I was given a loan of 700 shillings, now 1,400 as long as I pay mapema. Again, just pointing to the fact that if you pay, you're able to actually increase your limits. Omosh Oscar the Prince is trying to bring a breakdown. 1 chicken, 250 shillings, feed is 300 shillings, vaccine 450. So I think he's just questioning, is 500 shillings really enough for someone to set a business? Young Fuchu, 500 can't help set a hustle because transaction end up reducing the amount from 475 to 400 shillings. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. We hope to see you again next week here on the Scorecard on KBC Channel 1. Have a good night.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Learning is it's something that we do every day. Don't stop. Don't quit. You can still pursue other dreams, but don't let go of whatever it is that you really want to do, because that is what gives you fulfillment. And I'm speaking this for myself, because today I feel totally fulfilled as a woman. I have learned a lot. I have had challenges. I am still questioning. I am still learning. But I walk every day with a smile on my face because what I am doing is so fulfilling. So every woman out there, go do it.
Mr. Bai? Never came to ask me yourself. We told you not to leave and to always keep your eyes on that dress, so why did you leave that dress alone that day? So I'm not going back to work for the magazine again.
Isn't this one of my flowers? Your crazy hair gives you away no matter where you go. How come you two still have time to come here and party? And why didn't you invite me?
It's not a party.
Oh, Jenny, she's cleaning the toilet right now.
Excuse me? Why is she cleaning the toilet? Don't you have cleaning staff in charge of that?
It's not like that.
Tell me the truth and the real reason you're here. Why don't you get a real job?
Gentlemen, help me welcome His Excellency President Paul Kagame, CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe, and FIFA President Gianni Infantino. You may kindly take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome. Murakazaneza to the land of 1,000 hills, Rwanda, and I hope you have all been settling in well to what is going to be your home for the next few days. Hosting this event here today in Kigali is a testament to the amazing progress that the country has made over the years. And I really hope you're all as excited as I am for today's program. Your Excellency, President Paul Kagame, CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, representative of His Majesty Mohammed VI, may God assist him, King of Morocco, Minister of National Education and Sports Chakib Ben Musa, Confederation Presidents, members of the FIFA Council, members of the CAF Executive Committee, the 54-member association presidents from our motherland, Africa, all protocols observed, welcome to the CAF President's Outstanding Achievement Award 2022 ceremony. My name is Naringwa Fiona Mothoni, and I'll be your host for this evening. This week, Rwanda and Africa have opened its doors to football royalties from all over the world. And today, in particular this evening, this room will be filled with celebrations looking at the key milestones that have been achieved in the football sector here on the continent. CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe will tonight confer the CAF President Outstanding Achievement Award to two heads of state who have made meaningful contributions to development of football here on our continent. These heads of state have also set great examples of leadership within the African continent. And we cannot really talk about excellence without highlighting some of the key things that have been achieved by CAF in the last 2 years. To name just a few, we've seen record TV audiences from AFCON. We've also seen the record crowds at Women's AFCON. And finally, the world-class production from the CHAN. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly turn your attention to the screens and watch some of these highlights and more.
Africa says, thank you very much.
The biggest game on the continent, it's Egypt up against Senegal. This might be an opportunity. Is there a penalty? And it is Senegal who missed the opportunity. Salah with a shot, Mendy with a save. Mane! Senegal are African champions. this grand event. It is the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2022 final. Here's a chance for a second. South Africa lead by 2 goals to 0 in this final, and Hilda Bahia is now joint leading scorer in this tournament. South Africa, after 5 attempts, have finally claimed glory. They achieve immortality as they claim their first title in the WAFCON. They are champions for the first time. With the dark comes the promise of light, with bright stars and a shot at glory. Welcome to the final.